roar of the crowd, the boom of the fireworks. It's the soundtrack to summer for Cardinals Nation. So grab your cap and glove and take your spot in the stands, because in St. Louis, baseball is more than a melody, it's our favorite song.
Broadcasting live from the J. Randolph Jr. Studios in Kirkwood.
I once got catfished by a girl in Kirkwood, before catfishing was really even a thing.
This is the Lou Information Station, streaming 24/7 at louinfo.com, with live and on-demand content on YouTube. And catch all of our local shows on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. KLIS 590 AM, Wood River, St. Louis. The Lou Information Station presents Too Many Men on the Mic with Jared Ballant and Drew Acree.
Another episode of Too Many Men on the Mic on a sweltering July summer day. I know we have listeners out there that don't reside in the St. Louis, Missouri area. I'm jealous of you today because it's one of those days where you open your door and you walk out and then you just turn around and you go back inside, right? It's just one of those days where it's hard to breathe. So, yeah, that's what you get in late July in St. Louis. Probably a little bit different than Detroit and the summers you grew up with, right?
Yeah, I think we would have maybe 2 weeks like this, and it was a rarity. We were really close to different larger bodies of water, so you'd have that lake effect and it'd be cooler at night. You know, I'm getting up at 6:30 in the morning just so I can go do my ruck. I'm doing this new thing where it's called rucksacking, I guess, where you put the weight vest on.
I can't wait to hear. Oh, the weight vest.
Nice. On, and you know, I may or may not have been hailed by a couple of my players driving around town as they've seen me.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, guys, stop and pick me up.
You know, they're going to come to practice and be like, "Are we wearing the weight vest?"
You know, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about practices today. It's a very coaching centric show this week, and I think it's appropriate coming off of what, honestly, I've gotten tons of feedback. I'm sure you have too. One of the interview with Bob Mancini last week, and just his approach, his fun first, kid first. It makes me not want to call it practice anymore. He said, "Hey, you having a fun today?"
Yeah. You know what? We've got 4 to 5. Come to the ice rink, and what's on the agenda today? Fun.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
Well, and the neat thing about it, as we segue into a couple of great topics today. And by the way, we have another great interview that I'm going to throw a little tease out there for the second half.
Oh, do it.
Typically, we do the interviews in the first half of the show, but what we're finding is we want to keep these listeners for the full hour. So second half of the show, you don't want to miss. And unless you're following us on Twitter and Instagram, you may not know. We've got a dynamite interview with a local youth hockey director. And I think a lot of the things that Bob Mancini talked about last week, this director of hockey and his organization is putting it into, they're executing on that and putting it into practice, and the results will speak for themselves. So don't go anywhere. We're back here at the bottom of the hour. And
well, quick comment on that. Speaking of fun, big day in the Acree house today. Our oldest son is 18. So, yeah, right? I think that means he's an adult. He's responsible for everything. I mean, of course we're going to help him. But I love what he said yesterday to me, just in passing. You know, we have these fleeting moments passing back and forth inside the house, having these 10, 12-second conversations. And I loved his question. Does the high school team still have practice this Friday? So here he is. He's 18, right? He's at the end of the 6U traditional 18U youth hockey journey, and he's still saying on a sweltering July day, does the high school team still have practice? Love it.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to your
Thank
son,
you.
to you and Lisa. I'm about 6 weeks away from that same milestone. I still can't believe it. But yeah, I think it's a whole other topic we can get into when we talk about parents and their kids and hockey and just in general. But I never thought I'd have an 18-year-old. You have 2.
I know.
You've got 2 now.
I know. I've got 2 above 18, and then we've got our bonus who's 13, and we're still we're still enjoying all of those moments. But I feel like what we've been talking about here, topic wise, is we're building momentum, and we're really building momentum towards the season. We've had some great announcements, Bob Mancini and USA Hockey being a huge one last week, and I can't wait to bring his team in and help dig into some of these concepts as we get closer and closer to the season. But we got another big announcement this week.
Big announcement, and it's I love how you're becoming this professional radio guy. You set the table talking about Miles wanting to go to high school practice. Well, this is a huge announcement. We have forged a new partnership with the Mid-States High School Hockey League here in the St. Louis area. And starting in November at the beginning of the season, the Too Many Men on the Mic show, the Lou Information Station, will be broadcasting the Mid-States High School Game of the Week. Presented by the Lou Information Station, Too Many Men on the Mic, and STL Sports Central. First off, I'm not going to name names yet, but there are several local businesses and local supporters of high school hockey who are helping to make this possible. And again, as we progress and get closer to the start date for this, we're going to be singing their praises and thanking them profusely. But this doesn't get done without a strong love for high school hockey, for youth hockey here in the St. Louis area. In addition to the broadcast of the Game of the Week,
Absolutely.
you and I are going to be doing some road trips throughout the week to different rinks throughout the St. Louis and St. Charles area, talking to coaches, talking to players, highlighting the teams that are going to be competing in that Game of the Week. This is absolutely.
I love it. Game of the week. And we get to pump it up, right? We're going to interview the coaches. We're going to talk about players. We're going to get people excited. And we're going to get a lot of interest. But by the time the game's coming around, boy, you're going to be frothing, ready to go, right?
Yep.
Game on.
We're building out a production model that is going to basically elevate the players in the clubs, put them on a stage. I had a conversation with a local business owner last week, and he's excited to be a part of this. And his exact words to me were, this is a lot better than buying an ad in the back of the program. And he goes, I was a youth hockey player. I want my kids to be able to experience what the football players, the basketball players, the baseball players experience for high school. And he encapsulated exactly why we're doing this. It's community pride. It's a professional level experience for fans if you can't be at the game in person, for family members. And being able to highlight these teams, coaches, players on a weekly basis, it's part of what we're doing. So super excited. Thank you to the folks at Mid-States Hockey, Craig Ragland, the president, Don Arias, the vice president, and the entire board. They believed in our idea. They took it to heart. They had some phenomenal impact and input. It's only going to get better. There's more news to come, but we are able to officially announce starting in November, Mid-States High School Hockey Game of the Week broadcast.
Well, and big thanks to Dave Green and the KLIS team for broadcasting this. We're going to have commentators. They're going to be calling this game. Now, it's not going to be you and me. Our job is to preview and get people excited and maybe talk some X's and O's. I don't know. We're going to have to see how much these coaches give away their strategy, right? They may be keeping their cards close to the vest.
Well, one of the things, and that's a great segue into kind of our next topics, but we're going to be working with coaches at all levels throughout the season. We have the ability, because of our video streaming on YouTube and being able to share a screen, we're going to start to try and build a repository of great practice drills and games that coaches are putting together around the youth hockey community here in St. Louis. I already have one of those repositories.
I was just going to say, how many drills are currently in your repository? That's what I want.
I mean, probably close to 300, but it's probably, I would say, closer to 50 with 300 variations.
So for full disclosure, Coach Ballant has some of the best visually designed practice plans. I will give him kudos on that. So the squiggly lines, the movement, the whole bit. I'm more of a notes guy. on your phone where I'm conceptually thinking through the drills and trying to explain them. So Jared takes my concepts over notes and then drills them down into visual designs, because some people are visual learners.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, I also try to throw videos in there because I feel ever since I've, for like the last 3 or 4 years and coaching from 12U on up, these kids are very, very adept at watching videos and being able to break down clips. It just makes practice more fun. And it allows us to teach and coach more rather than spending, whereas you used to spend like 5 to 7 minutes showing the drill. Now you can maybe spend 2 minutes showing the drill and really focusing on coaching.
You could even watch the drill before.
You could. You absolutely could. And so our hopes are is that we always mention coaches are thieves, and we want to get a bunch of coaches together, help build a repository. We've already got some coaches lined up. We're going to, as the season begins and goes, we're going to be having this additional segment, but more content, more value, more opportunity to get better at hockey because it's more fun. Hockey's more fun the better you get.
There's that ism. So we talked about landmarks last week, which is, I think, a great way to start, looking at the ice. And I think we're going to touch on that a little bit later in this week's segment. But, one of the things when you're thinking about the ice and, taking it maybe to another level inside the landmarks, one of the things I've experienced, and I'm sure you have too, I know you have, is maybe you have the benefit, the luxury as a youth hockey organization to know that you're going to have a full sheet of ice every single practice. And if you do, more power to you. That's fantastic. Not every organization can do that, and rink time is limited in availability. So you might be one of one teams on the ice. You might be one of two, one of three, one of four, and ADM. And I feel like if Bob Mancini was here, he would talk about how, we can put 2, 3, 4 teams on the ice and still accomplish objectives towards making players better. But I've been around coaches before where a coach will come in the door. Let's say I'm getting dressed, and they said, "Are we sharing the ice with anybody?" Sometimes, and usually, I should say, it's like, "Oh, we're sharing the ice with somebody." Now what are we going to do? There's lots of things you can do with a half a sheet of ice. There's lots of things you can do with a quarter sheet of the ice. So curious, as we dig into this, I have to imagine you probably run into some coaches that have said that to you before.
So I don't think that there are too many organizations right now because the demand for ice is so great. This sport has grown so much in the last 5 to 6 years. Participation is such that we're having to put at least 2 teams on the ice for practices. And so, you can look at that as lemons. I like to look at it as lemonades. Let's take lemons and turn it into lemonade.
There's another ism.
And, one of the things that I really leaned into as I was coaching 10U and 12U, several years ago was how often does a hockey play occur in a 10U or 12U game that spans more than one zone, that spans 2 zones?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It spoiler alert, it doesn't. It doesn't very often, not by design at least. And so I started really looking at the National Team Development Program, NHL teams, NCAA teams who are posting their practices. And you know what I found?
What's that?
They got a lot of drills and a lot of small area games that take up half the ice. In fact, the Winnipeg Jets, you can go out and check this out on YouTube, have a dump-in, breakout, retrieve, and attack drill that takes place within the blue line. This is an NHL team that can get on the ice and can stretch the entire ice and probably makes more than a handful of plays in any given game that span more than one zone. And yet they have fundamental practice plans and strategies and drills in games that are only half ice. And that one drill, you're essentially simulating being on a full sheet of ice.
Yeah.
And what it does is it forces players to carry the puck less and pass it more. Mm-hmm. Because you have to go and retrieve that puck. You have to look D to D. You have to look up the boards and find your outlet pass. You have to then go hit the players who are standing at the blue line who are coming into attack. So rather than trying to, as we talked about landmarks last week, gain every line and potentially turn the puck over at every line, this is an NHL team that runs half ice drill, actually runs a third drill, because it's inside the blue line, so it's only a third of the ice. National Team Development Program, same thing. Now, they're also running concurrent drills and games in the neutral zone and the other in the zone opposite.
Sure.
I got to a point where I liked to run half ice practices more, because you're able actually to simulate, at least at the youth hockey level and the younger levels, you're able to simulate the game as it's actually played with one zone at a time.
Well, and last Friday we had a practice, and what I like moving from a tight small area game and then opening it up.
Yeah. So
we had a 2-on-2 and a quarter, and we had 2 stationary players on either team that you could pass back to. You might remember this drill.
Maybe.
And 2 goalies. And it was a tight game. There was not a lot of space out there. And the kids were competing, a lot of 50-50s, right? There's not a lot of room on the ice, but we did that for a while. The kids were having fun. Puck goes out of play. You throw another one in, and you do it over and over and over again. And pretty soon the kids are cheering for another one and making sounds and oohs and ahs and all those kinds of things. They're tapping sticks. And then we opened up the entire ice and encouraged the kids really to drive some of that same creativity, because we saw some really creative things happen with them in some small spaces. And then taking that and applying it to a much larger surface, a full sheet of ice where you have more players that are out there. And I felt like it translated well, just moving from that quarter over to a full sheet. And it was a good little primer to get started.
Yeah, we may coach together. So I think as we talk about these practice plans, I love starting, if you happen to have a full sheet of ice, which is wonderful. I love starting in a small area, dividing your team up so kids can get more touches, and then gradually moving. We've run practices where you've got 2 groups of players in a drill or a small area game in the opposite zones, and then you move the nets in and you play a neutral zone game, again, not full ice, and maybe you have some skill work going on out in the corners,
right?
And then you move those nets all the way to the creases and you have a full ice scrimmage. And through that whole process, you've done 2 things. One, you've created an environment and a spatial awareness for these kids where they are practicing in the same type of situations and in the same areas that they would in a game. You are opening up the ice so that they are getting a better awareness of, as we talked about last week, the landmarks. And then you're basically saying, okay, all these things that you've done in components and these different practice drills and games, now let's put it into effect for a full ice scrimmage. Otherwise, I do like to have full ice if we're doing conditioning or pre-practice warm-ups, whether we're doing an overspeed drill or we're doing some form of full ice back checking. But in the meat and potatoes and having fun, the more your kids can touch the puck, the more you can utilize the size of the ice to help build that skill and awareness for these players of where they are, when to make plays, when to make decisions, and then putting that into practice at the tail end of practice in a full ice scrimmage, a game simulation. That's what the pros do.
And I would even add that there's a planning component to that too. So let's say you have 3 teams that are sharing a sheet of ice. One way to plan for that is to have, I'm just picking a level, 3 10U teams. So you could start having each team work on the drills, the skills, the concepts you want to really drive your team towards. What happened in the last game? What do we want to work on this practice? And maybe you do that for the first half of the practice. I'm just throwing that out. And then the other half, you break down those pads and bring those teams together and then work on concepts skills that all of those teams can participate in together. And that's where you can make it full ice, maybe, perhaps turn it into a scrimmage or some kind of full ice drills. So you can have both. And so I think a fallacy might be, oh, I have to share ice. That means I'm not going to have great practice. Or look at it as an opportunity and decide, how can I help my team today with the limited ice I have? How could I plan this in the future with some other like-level teams? It doesn't have to be exact. And then work with the other coaches to drive more of a full ice or more of a bigger game.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna fit in nicely with some of the conversation we have here in our second half interview about the directors of hockey and different age liaisons and managers within these organizations as they're scheduling ice. If there's a way to have a consistent, our 10 U's are going to practice at 6 o'clock,
right.
12 U's are going to practice at 7 o'clock, or 14 U's are going to practice at 8 o'clock, then you do have that. One, it's consistent for the parents and families, which I'm sure they'll thank you for, but it also gives you an opportunity to get these kids who are the same age, but maybe don't play with all these different players all the time.
Right.
In a scenario in practice where they can maybe stretch their skills a little bit. You and I used to do that when we were coaching at the Pee Wee level, the 12U level. You had a team and I had a team, and we would be on the ice together. It was like, hey, let's scrimmage the last 15 minutes.
Right.
As a coach, you've got the first 45 minutes to implement your strategy and tactics, which is, again, another foreshadow to this interview. They should all pretty much be similar. And then you get to play. Play. Yeah. So.
Well, this Too Many Men on the Mic segment is brought to you by Big Bear Tournaments, your go-to for unforgettable youth hockey travel experiences. Big Bear hosts spectacular tournaments in some of the coolest hockey towns across North America and are filling faster than ever. If you don't get in early, you may not get a spot. The August 22nd Big Bear Summer Showcase in Ann Arbor is an exclusive 16U, 18U early season tournament and only has one spot left at 16U and 3 spots at 18U. Any team traveling to this event from out of town will be given a $550 discount. That's a lot. By mentioning the Too Many Men podcast. Other locations like the Peachtree Showdown in Atlanta on September 19th only has one spot in 12U and one spot in 16U. Additionally, Big Bear Tournaments has locations like Chicago on September 19th and Detroit and Lexington on September 26th, with many divisions already set. Don't delay. Apply today and mention the Too Many Men podcast for $550 off the summer showcase or a mystery discount on any of the other cities we offer. Just mention this podcast and save with Big Bear.
Hats off to family fun on Sunday, July 27th, when the Birds host the Padres. That day, 20,000 fans, 16 and older, will get a City Connect throw pad courtesy of Quick Trip. And thanks to Haichu, 10,000 kids ages 15 and under will take home a Cardinals hat with custom charms. Upgrade your and your kiddos' game gear. Snag your tickets today at cardinals.com/promotion.
This is Alec Burleson, St. Louis Cardinals, for the Lou.
Summer in St. Louis means one thing: Cardinals baseball. It's more than a game. It's an STL tradition. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the boom of the fireworks. It's the soundtrack to summer for Cardinals Nation. So grab your cap and glove and take your spot in the stands. Because in St. Louis, baseball is more than a melody. It's our favorite song.
In your city with Kelly and Gordon. It's the hottest happy hour in STL radio. A high-energy, high-impact weekday radio show blending relationship values, celebrity buzz, community love, and sharp business insight. This is where storytelling meets strategy. It's the pulse of this city, bringing the energy, stories, and voices of STL to life. In your city with Kelly and Gordon. Weekday afternoons at 4, only on the Lou Information Station. LouInfo.com news headlines. Brought to you by Brown and Crouppen. 222-2222.
This is your LouInfo.com news update. St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery has appointed the former mayor's HR director, who was fired from that post, as his new chief human resources officer. An undercover operation this week in South St. Louis led to the recovery of about 1,000 pounds of stolen utility wire. Janice Mensa, former vice chair of the Detention Facilities Oversight Board, accused of trespassing and resisting arrest, has been found not guilty. Gas station chain Quick Trip facing a new lawsuit that says it sold alcohol to a drunk man before he got into a crash in 2020, leaving a couple injured. The lawsuit centered around a Quick Trip on North Main Street in St. Peters. A police chase ended with a man being placed on a stretcher after the vehicle he was in rolled over near the area of Interstate 70 and 170. The incident resulted in a heavy police presence in that area as they gathered information. For the Lou Information Station, streaming 24/7 at luinfo.com, I'm Peter Killeen.
Now, luinfo.com weather. Presented by STL Sports Central. St. Louis sports. Anytime, anywhere.
Here is your luinfo.com weather update. It is going to be extremely hot and humid again today and tomorrow. Sunshine, a high in the mid to upper 90s today, a heat index in the low 100s. Partly cloudy, upper 70s overnight. Friday, chance of a few showers of storms, a high near 95. Saturday, isolated showers of storms, a high mid-90s. And then we're back in the mid-90s with a few isolated showers of storms on Sunday. I'm meteorologist Ellie Russell for the Lou Information Station, streaming 24/7 at luinfo.com.
Fenton Bar and Grill, home of the best trash wings in the St. Louis area and the best servers in town. Fenton Bar and Grill is located on Rudder Road in Fenton, just minutes away from the soccer park. Open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., so anytime is a good time to enjoy Fenton Bar and Grill. While you're there, say hi to Chuck, the 2024 Mater D of the Year, and know you'll always be around people that love sports. It's a guaranteed great time at Fenton Bar and Grill. Learn more at fentonbarandgrill.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision. It should not be based solely on advertisements.
Not sure how to get a lawyer after an accident? Call Brown and Crouppen. We'll walk you through it. Worried it'll cost too much? Here's a fact. At Brown and Crouppen, you pay nothing up front, never get paid unless you do. When you're our client, you'll have all your questions answered, all for free. Hurt? Get the facts and help you need. Call Brown and Crouppen now.
This hour of content on the Lou Information Station is brought to you by Grandpa Pigeons, Johnny Mac's Sporting Goods, and Becky's Carpet and Tile Superstore.
Hey, see that, kids? That's the St. Louis Arch, the gateway to the west.
The Lou Information Station, where we'll always call it Highway 40 or Highway 40 if you're a boomer.
The St. Louis expression?
Stream our content 24/7 at luinfo.com. The Lou Information Station. Back to more of Too Many Men on the Mic with Jared Ballant and Drew Acree on the Lou Information Station. Streaming 24/7 at luinfo.com.
And we're back to Too Many Men on the Mic. You can find us on luinfo.com. And if you're tooling around town in the car, AM 590 KLIS. Call in at 855-282-8255. This next segment is brought to you by 5B Designs. St. Louis hockey families and business leaders, if you need custom gear that stands out and stands for something, it's time to meet 5B Designs. Founded by Shannon Berheni, a proud St. Louis mom and entrepreneur, 5B Designs is a woman-owned small business that brings purpose to custom apparel. Whether you're suiting up your youth hockey or high school team or leveling up your company's branded swag, 5B delivers top-notch quality with a personal touch. Need a team store? No problem. Corporate polos or event giveaways, they got you covered. 5B makes it easy with fast turnaround, flexible service, and design your players or employees will love to wear. Check them out at stores.inksoft.com/5B Designs. That's 5 the word, F-I-V-E, and see what purpose-driven apparel looks like. Well, we dropped a little bit of breadcrumbs there, little Hansel and Gretel, on this next segment. And so I'm just going to get right to it. We had the opportunity earlier in the week because scheduling did not permit this person to join us here live to interview the director of hockey for the Kirkwood Youth Hockey Association, the Kirkwood Stars, and that's Todd Brereton. Todd was phenomenal. I'm not going to bury the lead here by spoiling the interview any more than we already had, but let's just say he picks up the baton from Bob Mancini and really shows what putting it in action here on a local youth hockey level can lead to. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it on over to Eli, who's in for Grant today, and everybody enjoy the interview with Todd.
Youth Hockey Association. Todd, thanks so much for giving us some time today, and appreciate you joining.
Oh, thank you guys very much for inviting me.
And Todd, for our viewers and listeners out there, I just want to go on record and say that is not a stock background. That is not something that is in your Teams or your Zoom instance, and it's a fantastic background. It's laced with guitar. So I have no doubt we can talk music all day long, but we're here to talk about hockey, and 25-26 season is right around the corner, and we're on the backside of the pleasure of talking with Bob Mancini at USA Hockey last week, and what a fun game, because I feel like Bob had a middle name. His middle name was probably fun, because his answer, if you don't know what to do in a practice, is make it fun. So just out of curiosity, I'm going to throw a line out there.